going back about maybe 15 years now, 14. I was sitting in the confessional one day at a university, in a university campus, in the church of a university campus in the United States where I was working at the time. And a man came into the confessional. He would have been in his mid-30s. I didn't know this at the time. And he confessed his sins, which I don't remember. But, and if I did, I wouldn't tell you, even though you're not likely to ever find out who he is, but whatever. That's not something we play around with. But he was, even though there was I couldn't see through it wasn't a railing, whatever it was, some kind of a veil. I couldn't see him. It was, his anonymity was guarded, as it should be. But I noticed from his voice that the poor fellow was agitated and stressed and full of anguish and anxiety. He was in a bad state. So I forget now what I said exactly, but I just said, do you have someone to talk to? And he said he didn't, and I said, do you need someone to talk to or whatever? And he said he did, and anyway, there was a long queue outside, so I told him my email address, and I said, send me a note if you like, and we can set up an appointment and meet. So when we met, this is in Florida, the heat, the sun is quite extreme there. I remember meeting him beside this lake. Florida is hot, wet, and flat. Florida is plagued by alligators and mosquitoes. The alligators are entertaining for about 2 weeks. Maybe not even that much. Alligators are an immensely boring animal, unless you get too close and unless you want to try and play around with them. But that's Florida. I hope sister's not from Florida. We don't have any. Oh dear Lord, yeah, we do. Me and my big mouth. I've had some great times in Florida. Mostly getting out of there. But anyway, so there we were by this lake. It's full of lakes as well, by the way, because it rains regular as clockwork every day at 5 o'clock, around 5 or 5:30, because the humidity becomes so dense. It's like living in a sauna. It becomes so dense throughout the day that it builds up. You can almost feel it building up. And then it just unleashes itself at about 5:30 in the afternoon, and the rain comes lashing down in torrents, and you get a little bit of relief for a while. So that's Florida. There we were. When I saw him, I had to camouflage my reaction. I had to disguise my reaction. I had to hide the horror, the surprise. Because his face and his arms, he was wearing a t-shirt, was an open mass of sores and scars and bloodstains. And he wasn't like gushing blood or drops of blood falling down, but he was stained, little stains of blood all over his face and his arms and his neck. And his head was all covered in dandruff. He was in an awful state. So he told me anyway that he had some kind of a skin disease. I don't know, was it eczema? I think it was something more serious than that. I can't remember now the name of the disease. And he was smoking furiously. He was married without children. He couldn't study. He couldn't sleep. He couldn't work. This condition was ruining his life. He would fall asleep for about an hour and a half at night out of pure exhaustion. Just the contact with the sheets would send him into frenzies of itchiness and so on all over his body. And of course the marriage was under strain. So I asked him lots of questions about health issues and, had he been to the doctor, this, that, and the other. And he gave me answers that no solution had been found, and he'd been to this doctor and he'd been to that doctor, and so on and so forth. So in situations like that, what can you do? Only just keep your mouth shut and let your heart suffer, and promise, that you will pray and that you'll try to be a listening ear as much as you can, and see you again whenever, And we did have several conversations after that, and he was an interesting character, son of a military man as well, and very quirky, entertaining character. Good company. In the summertime, we left for Spain to spend a couple of months in the mother house with the community and camps and stuff in Spain. And when I went back again the following August, September, we arranged to meet again, and I saw him coming, and he totally transformed. His skin was like a newborn baby, like little rosy cheeks, and his eyes all lit up, and the whole, he was perfectly normal. So I asked him, what the heck has happened? What happened? How did you got cured? And he said, yeah. And I said to him, well, tell me the story. He said, I went to the doctor. What did he say? He said, not you again. What do you mean? Yeah, the doctor said, he said, not you again. And I said, yeah, me again, doc. And the doctor said to him, give me one good reason why I should waste more time on you. Did you do this, what I told you a year ago? Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do the other? No, doctor. No, doctor. No, doctor. Well, give me one good reason why I should waste more time with you. And he opened his arms and he said, look at me, doc. Look at me, doc. As much as to say, I'm a mess. Look at my face, look at my arms, look at the state of me. And that was his answer, to persuade the doctor to try again, to give him another chance. And what the doctor had told him a year or so previously, after following his evolution for some time, which he never told me, he comes and talks to me as supposedly God's representative, and he didn't tell me the full truth of the situation. And the doctor had told him, stop smoking, stop drinking, spend half an hour every day in one of those tanning machines, or whatever they're called, and let's see what happens. And he never did it. He didn't stop smoking, he didn't stop drinking, and he didn't do the tanning machine. So he ended up in this dreadful state, like I say, which he hadn't told me about the doctor's recommendations. And when he put them into practice, he got miraculously transformed. I call him Naaman the Syrian. And just go wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan, dude. And that's all you got to do. His flesh became again like the flesh of a child, and he was clean. So, the Lord is never going to say to you, give me one good reason why I shouldn't waste more time on you. But he is going to say to you, he does want you to say to him, rather, Lord, look at me. Look at me. What are your leprosies? What are your obsessions? What are your addictions? What are your negative patterns in thought, in deed? No matter how big they are, how small they are, what are your vices? Where are you losing it? For many years, I would even go so far as to say for many decades, I was a martyr of chocolate. I would die for chocolate. Chocolate is a stupid thing to die for. I had a Willy Wonka phase where I was actually 9 months selling Cadbury's chocolate around Munster. And I used to stuff myself with chocolate all day long. The car full of chocolate. And for many years I would give it up for Lent and then fall back and make up for it in Easter, double doses during Easter. And whenever in the community they would put little plates of chocolate, like, all the others would take 2 or 3, maybe 1 or 2 of them would take a 4th one. But like when the rest of them would be busy, engaged in lively conversation, my hand would go out and I'd take another one and another one, and another one. And then of course the saucer here is empty, but there's a saucer over there, And these petty little addictions, they leave a sour taste in the soul when you give in to them, when you're controlled by them. I'm just giving one little personal example of something that kind of impedes our flight and that kind of, like I say, it sours your soul, it saddens your soul. And when my father died, let me see, 2017, 6 years ago, my father prayed the rosary every day, daily mass goer, father of nine sons. And he used to have us all pray the rosary in the evening together as a family. And he used to pray not for a united Ireland. He did for many years, he prayed for that, for united Ireland. But then he was persuaded by John Hume just to pray for peace in Northern Ireland. And for 26 years, he fasted of all sweet things, sweets, cakes and biscuits and sugar. He would not touch chocolate or ice cream or cakes, sweet cakes. He fasted from all things sweet for 26 years for peace in Northern Ireland. I think he had more to do with it than McGuinness and Paisley, to be honest, and the legions of men and women north and south of the border in this country who made sacrifices and prayed and stormed heaven with persistent prayer for 25, 26 years. So when he died, we buried him, and I had the joy and privilege of presiding my father's funeral mass and so on. And afterwards I was thinking to myself, you know what? If the old fella could fast for 26 years of all things sweet for peace in Northern Ireland, and my vocation is the conquest of young people for Christ, could I give up chocolate? Could I continue Dad's fast for the conversion of the young people of Ireland? And like that, God gave me the grace. And he freed me of that petty little addiction. And it's not even a big effort, it's just like, it's almost like a liberation. So what I'm getting at with this is that in the spiritual exercises, or in any given moment, the Lord can allow you to fail repeatedly. He's not really looking for success, he's looking for constancy in the struggle, in the battle. That's what pleases him, that's what glorifies him, that you never become discouraged, that you never tire of always beginning again with faith in his mercy, faith in his love, faith in his forgiveness, faith in the power of his grace. The liberation will come. So, The first point of meditation is Naaman the Syrian, his situation, his disposition, his conversion, the act of humility on his part that God required of him, the act of faith and humility that God required of him to come down off his high horse and to pay attention to his servants, his social inferiors, as sent by God, and to wash himself, to plunge 7 times into the waters of the Jordan. And then the fruits of that, the cleansing, the purification, the rebirth like a baby. His flesh became like that of a little child, and he was clean. And this is something that the Lord invites you to and promises you. If you are humble, if you are obedient, if you are attentive, if you hear his voice, if you let yourself be looked upon by him without smoke screens, without excuses, without false justifications, without escapisms. Look at me, Lord. Look at me, Doc. Why should I waste more time on you? Give me one reason why I should try again. Look at me, Doc. Look at me, Lord. Pierce me with your gaze. Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. The second point of meditation is the behavior of Elisha, God's instrument, the man of God. How he requires that leap of faith and humility on the part of Naaman, the great military commander. St. Ignatius of Loyola says that in the spiritual exercises there's a hierarchy of protagonists. The first protagonist, number 1, is the Holy Spirit. The second is our Blessed Mother. The third, I would say, is St. Ignatius of Loyola as an instrument of God. He's like the prophet Elisha. The fourth is you. The fourth protagonist of the spiritual exercises is you. And the fifth and last is the speaker, the so-called leader of the spiritual exercises, Father Dominic and myself. We'll do our part, but you must do yours. You can do nothing without God, but God can do nothing without you. He has chosen to need you, to need your openness, to need your generosity, to need that leap of faith and humility. And St. Ignatius of Loyola says you must enter into the exercises with great generosity and courage, braveness of spirit. Seek, hide not your face, seek, what is it again? Tu rostro buscaré, Señor, no me escondas tu rostro. I will seek your face, O Lord, hide not your face. My soul thirsts for the living God. So that's all. I've been talking now for, going on 45 minutes. We'll expose the Blessed Sacrament. I think it's until 10 o'clock. And then we have night prayer and the blessing. And again, as you make your way up to your room to go to bed for the night, maintain that spirit of recollection. Make those decisions. If there are married couples here, for example, what I've seen over the years is that the devil will make you happy with each other. It's almost like as if you're on a honeymoon and you're whistling and giggling with each other and, having little jokes. Oh, it's like, and then if you fall into that trap, as soon as the spiritual retreat ends, you're not going to stand each other's company. It's a trick. I've seen that happen. Even in the case of married couples, silence solitude, separation, prayer. This is time to focus exclusively and totally on God. And then afterwards, the honeymoon, and to share the riches received.